Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Laststandgamers, and welcome. So today we're playing a little bit more Space Engineers multiplayer, and the fact with the multiplayer that is really quite exciting is that we're going to be doing this on a completely public server. And that means we're not going to have any of the privileges that we do on private servers or the treatment that we get where the admins are constantly checking things out. We are going to be starting a raw survival. Now, it's only going to be one episode. I'm just going to see how far I can get following the rules that Keen Software House have put in place for me. So I'm playing as I'm a completely new player. Obviously, there's some things that I know, like I know that landing in this area will allow me to have longer hours of sunlight. That area over there would probably be even better. So we're just moving into this position. Game's paused. They must be doing some crazy stuff on the other side. The thing is, with Space Engineers, since it's still quite experimental in a lot of ways, is if one of them other 15 players decides to do something crazy, and we're halfway through a build, we could lose our progress. And the progress on a public server... Oh god, let's make sure we're actually going to stop this thing. Here we go. Alright, this is going to be our new home for the next few days. Of course, it's out in the open. It's very vulnerable. But when we're starting with nothing, we need that solar panels in as much daylight. So to make it a little bit easier, it looks like the sun rises over there. And, it's setting over there maybe. So we'll try to put our ship in the direction of it. So there we go. Perfect landing. Very nice. Let's disable first the antenna, so no one can pick us up on the actual sensors. Very important. Now the second thing is the thrusters that we're actually going to look for. So large thrusters and small thrusters, we're going to turn them off. So that's just a few tips that I always do when I come into land so we don't consume too much power. That is how much power we've got in that battery left. And as we actually have a look down here, we have information on what to do. Now, these are the priorities that Keen Software House lean out. And if you've ever been in one of these rovers, well, not rovers, these drop ships, you understand. Build the solar powers to provide renewable power, extremely important. Construct a suitable base, build additional refiners, assemblers, design and build a combat craft. Now, it's a very good sort of starting platform that they've got there. And on the other side, scouting priorities is locate a source of ice. We have found it. For oxygen or hydrogen fuel, survey for ore deposits, identify a suitable base location, avoid pirate facilities. Now, we'll see what happens within the pirate facilities. I don't think anything's going to happen to us at the moment. But what I'll do is I'll get working. We've got the 6 solar panels there, we've got the batteries, and we've got the flight seat there. So it means we can start building everything we need to do. And then we need to focus on getting some mining done. And it's pretty simple. I'll cut to different bits as I move along. But let's actually have a step onto the planet for the first time. So there we go. There's our little rover landed safely here. It doesn't look like there's any other people around. So it's not too bad of a start location. Let's see what we can get up defense-wise as well before anyone comes across us. So first bit of business is getting these solar panels up. We've got limited hydrogen. So what we really need to do here is think about how we're going to attach these and the best positions to attach them. Now, ideally, what we want to do is stick these on top, and we want to stick them vertically. So to do that, my recommendation is actually that we start to grind down a few of these components and make ourselves maybe an access port on the top, because we're not going to need that beacon, most definitely. And we could start getting some of the parts cut down and sort of working. So we need to keep an eye on our inventory because it's already quite full. And once it gets to a full state, we need to pop ourselves back in. So we need to just pop that out like so. And then we should be able to start knocking these blocks in place. And as we're cutting these down, we can use the resources from this. We've just got to keep an eye on the batteries before it's too late and everything runs out of power. Yeah, we've still got 3 blocks. It'll last a damn while, that. There we go. And finally, let's put that last part of the ramp in there. So yeah, it's not the most simplest of systems yet. Oh god, that would have been bad falling off the other side. But it means we can get to the roof now, and we can grind down components and drop them back in the cargo container. Oh no. Unknown signal. Oh, please don't be another lander. See, this is the sort of thing that starts to worry you already. You get an unknown signal like that. Let's just stop our broadcast. That is going straight down into the ground at very high velocity. It's only 2-point-something kilometers away though. So it could be pretty much anything. And now I bet it's going to start moving towards us as well before we even got to start off. Let's extend our solar farm out either way. So with this block design, we should just be able to keep pushing it out a little bit further. Let's make sure we've got enough in our blocks. There we go. Let's extend it out this way and pop that side on, and we can continue extending these solar arms out, keeping them vertical so they get maximum sort of resources. And I believe it said 6 on the actual diagram of how we can build. So we're just going to use a bit more hydrogen, use it very sparingly here, just so we can get these parts in very quickly. And oh, that was a bit of a mess up, wasn't it? Right, quickly back on the top. Obviously, if you run out of hydrogen, you just have to think of creative ways of doing things. And let's get these solar panels on top of here. So you might have to build a ladder or a staircase, just things like that, and stick that on that side like that. So you can see there's someone shooting at someone. Someone's causing a little bit of damage to someone on the server already. That's 2. That's 3. Let's get one more over this side. So to further my testing, I'm halfway through building the solar panels. I've got this base pretty much established. It just needs the solar bits actually stuck on. So we've joined ourselves a faction, and we're actually just going to have a look at some of their creations, what they've been up to, as well as, so this is their little outpost by the look of it. We've got a few different locations by the look of it as well. I'm just going to load each one up and have a look. So you can see we've got dust, phosphorus, kits, we've got med bays. They've also got access to my med bay. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what's going on. I don't see many people bodding around in these places though. It's quite interesting. These all look like they're converted sort of landers and whatnot. Let's respawn over here and see what exactly been going on. So this is part of this hammer type faction. Lots of little crafts that have been created. It's amazing that things have been created like this, to be fair, and no one's actually decided to troll it or ruin it. That I think must be quite an effort, or shows quite an effort within the Space Engineers community, as well as, you know, the maturity level of the players themselves. We've got an actual player building here as well. We've got a friendly astronaut there. We've got various different crafts. Very nice indeed. What's this? This is some sort of... So by the look of it, it looks like since we have joined this faction now, one of the faction members has given us a task to do. Is giving us a task, so it's like a bit of a mini game in a game. We're actually getting a task not from an NPC. Can you grind this attack truck down? Oh, okay, let's do that. See if we can help out. We'll be a sort of helpful member of the faction and see exactly what happens here. It is quite interesting to see. I just really didn't expect it to be as civilized, you know, on a public server. Somebody didn't build it right. That's what he's saying. So we've got some little components coming out of this. We've got a very rubbish grinder. Put the materials back in this large container. So we're basically being used as slave labour. Hopefully the ship doesn't fall on our head and crush us. But it's interesting to see that you can join and become, you know, a functional part of a crew. It's not like everyone's very hostile towards you. It's almost that feeling, if you ever played DayZ in the past, that when you first join a server, everyone's very friendly towards you. Oh god, we nearly got crushed. But I'm liking it. I mean, the private servers that I've been playing on before, yes, they've been very civilized and they've had a very strong admin team, but from what I'm getting from this first hour or so of play on a public server, I'm liking the experience. It's very soft. The players are not looking to murder me. I've only had one person who's tried to recruit me as a slave, but it's part of the fun, I guess. It's part of that role play sort of thing if you're into it. Let's cut down that and we'll get on. I'll jump back when I've got some more information. So the weirdest thing is happening, really. I'm getting this vibe that we've just really completed a tutorial, but it was like a multiplayer tutorial that was totally unintentional, where it was just simply grind down the bot, and from that we got the advanced grinder given to us off Logan, one of these astronauts out here that is working, that is totally a player, that I think is really quite fascinating that something like that has just happened. And if I was a new person to the game, it would be a suitable way of learning. It looks like he's going to attempt to produce the second rover, or the second drone. Here we go. Let's have a look at what he's writing. Not even the first piston works anymore. I have no idea what is going on. So it looks like they're definitely having some problems building this drone. It's probably because of the... It could be more likely because of the position of everything and how they've got the drone actually coming out of the placement. The most advisable way of doing this is to have that directly connected to a block and then have it grinded off that block. And then it'll probably most likely not fall out of position. But he's definitely trying to build himself a little bit of a drone army. No, a drone blueprint. Let's see if anyone actually notices. I think this, if they've seen the series, then they'll definitely realise it. If they've not, then it's hit or miss, really, isn't it? So now that we've actually explored this faction's outpost and what they're working on, I think it is time to get back to working on our solo type base. From what I've experienced here, it is really great. There's a great sort of atmosphere of bonding, and this is exactly what I wasn't expecting on a public server. So it just shows that the maturity of a lot of the Space Engineers community is pretty high to achieve something like this. You can see these people building ships over there. There's people working on drone constructing 3D printers. Someone's building a massive hangar over there. And there's no one just popping into this world and trolling it. I know it's going to happen at some point or another, but still it is great that players are playing like this. Anyway, let's head back to our little outpost. So we've got 5 of the 6 solar panels working now. We're just attempting to get these engines down, cut down into a little bit of a nicer package so that we can actually use this as some more resources to put back out into other things. So we just start grinding this down. So all this little will really remain is like a little bit of a hub for our resource making supplies. Once we've got an actual ship to do a few bits, we should be quite mobile indeed. So nipping back and forth with these large motor assembly parts, grinding down. And this is what the pleasure of Space Engine is all about. Is if, oh god, we've just dropped a lot of components. It's the random but also the chill. There's always a very nice silence before the storm. Like at the moment we're just simply moving some components around, we're collecting things and we're preparing ourselves. But in the back of my head there is a larger plan out there. There's a grant, there's sort of a wish for me to establish far more than this tiny little outpost, and I want to build bigger and bigger, maybe even establishing some form of faction. Let's dump them back in there. So you can see with Space Engineers and the multiplayer build, even on the public servers, it is possible to establish a community or a group of players or even a faction that could take on other faction type battles. So let's get that out. What we'll do is we'll just grind this all the way down. Oh god, I've just ground down what I was actually stood on. So after a lot of work and a little bit more modification, I've bloody missed the solar panel. But, but basically, what has happened is I started modifying the dropship so that I could use it as a mobile base and move it to different locations. Now, I'm at a stage where I need to do a little bit of a further mining run to find some resources that I just can't find around this area. So I'm going to have a look in the hills over there or something else. But what I've actually come up with so far is if we actually have a look inside, I'll use the jetpack temporarily because we've just got enough thrust. You can see what I've done here. I've moved that there, added a little bit of a back on. But if we pop inside, it is very similar. What has actually happened in this area is I've added the batteries in. Now, the batteries were a very costly method of installing them just because they're an expensive type resource of things, but we've got enough of them now to power the ship for a longer term of time. I've added the secondary airlock, so if we do decide to leave the planet one day, we have the 2 airlocks. I thought it would be a bit cooler to have it open up like that. I don't know why, but it gives you an idea of which is the outer and what's the inner airlock. And then it's pretty similar in this point to how we were working before. We've got the refineries and the assemblers over either side, and then this is where it starts to change a little bit. So to try to keep as much of the original ship as possible, so you can still see it's coming up with that temporary ship, so that might be a little bit of an issue if I come back to this. Well, we've still got the glass on the top missing, so I can access the top. But we've just got ourselves a little bit of a larger type ship. And then around the back, we've got ourselves the hydrogen. So the hydrogen generator or engine is designed so I can tilt this vertically if I want to escape the atmosphere. And I can get it out the atmosphere, and then I'll rely on my ion thrusters that I'm going to tuck in. That are going to be cheaper and more reasonable to use. But the system that I'm trying to implement up here is a way of maintaining the ice. So once I've got this generator done, I should have done it the other way around really. Well, not generator, this tank done. It means I can store the ice that all the snow is below me and basically turn that into more fuel for me and just get my survival to a next start. And survival is something that does take time. You've got to have patience with it, but that is how far I've come, and I've really enjoyed just dipping into this multiplayer server, seeing what it was like, seeing the factions, giving a little helping hand, but also doing a little bit of solo building like this myself. And I can't wait until Colony Wars comes along, when I've got a little faction of guys together and I'll be fighting against Captain Jack on a server. It's going to be really amazing. Anyway, if you've not given it a go already, jump onto the multiplayer world on the public server and just reach out to some of the factions out there. They seem to be very pleasant and they will help you get started. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.